Hey guys, how we doing? So we're back on another video from Annie News, Overlord related, and we are on How Strong is Sebas. We've done the Who Is. It was an interesting video. But now let's get into the, as Nux Dagger would say, the meat and potatoes of this. And let's find out how strong Sebas, the Titan, the Steel Butler, the something Butler, the cool Butler is. Sebas Tian's true power and form explained.
How strong is Sebas?
Yes, how is it?
Sure,
how strong
that's
is
a great question.
Yeah,
but
it is.
I think the one that you want answered first is, what is Sebas?
He's
I
a
mean, he
butler.
looks like a human.
He's a butler.
But you and I both know that's not at all what he is. So let's answer that right now. Sebas is a dragonoid, as in a member of the dragon race in some capacity.
Oh, okay.
It's possible he actually is a full-on dragon, but we'll get to that in a bit. Let's first look at the dragon race from where Overlord draws a lot of its inspiration.
Oh.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes, of course, yeah.
Dragons are a fantasy race that come in two varieties. Metallic dragons that have, well, metallic scales,
right, yeah, makes
so
sense.
platinum, gold, silver, or bronze, and they're typically heavily good aligned.
Oh.
Whereas chromatic dragons, deriving from the Greek word chroma, meaning color, were the opposite and strongly aligned with evil. Their scales had more ordinary colors of red, black, blue, or whatever, rather than the metallic sheen, and they typically defined what kind of breath they could spew, whether it be fire, ice, acid,
right, depending on their skin,
and
that's
they'd be
cool.
immune to damage from that specific element. Furthermore, dragons never die of old age. Instead, they grow perpetually. The older the dragon ages, the more powerful and larger they become.
The stronger they are.
Physical strength and toughness
cool.
increase along with their breath attack and how frequently that they can use it. They also gain a small selection of spells, including arguably their most important, the polymorph spell, allowing them to change their appearance. Many of them tend to disguise themselves as one of the humanoid races, and even start families. Now, in Overlord, dragons are pretty much identical to their Dungeons and Dragons counterparts. But there
so that's how Sebas could be a
exceptions.
dragon. Cool, okay,
First,
thank you for that.
The patterns of metallic being good and chromatic being evil doesn't quite seem to hold in Yggdrasil, or the New World. Sure, there are dragons that are good and evil, but they seem to come in both variations of the colors. For instance, to the north of the kingdom lies the Argland Council State, where a group of 5 dragons, including the Platinum Dragon Lord, peacefully rule over a nation of racially mixed demi-humans. Then there's the Catastrophe Dragon Lord, so dangerous that he's described as being a world-shattering calamity. Another difference is their magic system. They have access to a powerful brand of magic called Ancient Magic, or Wild Magic, a type that's powered with soul energy rather than mana, meaning its usage usually requires the sacrifice of a living creature. Wild Magic pre-existed the tier magic of Yggdrasil, and was the dominant magical art in the New World. Only those who had dragon blood somewhere in their lineage were capable of using wild magic. And the more pure blood of a dragon you were, the more powerful your wild magic. Thus, the eldest dragons, aka Dragon Lords, ruled the entire globe.
Makes sense.
But once the mana-based tier magic system was introduced into the New World, it became much more efficient to just use that instead. Though wild magic was said to be able to create effects that even tier magic could not hope to replicate. Of course, assuming that enough souls were sacrificed in the process. However, during this time, 6th tier magic was assumed to be impossible. So perhaps New World researchers didn't have a proper grasp on the full potential of tier magic. What we do know for sure is that the Dragon Lords who once ruled the New World with the power of wild magic were defeated by the 8 Greed Kings and their tier magic, primarily due to the efficiency reasons we mentioned earlier. Though few from the New World realize it, the 8 Greed Kings were once players from Yggdrasil who were teleported to the New World in centuries past, much like Ainz himself. As a matter of fact, it's believed by many readers that players used one of the more powerful world items from Yggdrasil to allow inhabitants of the New World to use tier magic, since historically, the magic system had spontaneously appeared out of nowhere, and wasn't native to the New World. But other than not being into karma groups and the slightly different magic systems, dragons in the New World are pretty similar to dragons in Dungeons and Dragons. Most importantly, with regards to the aspect in which they can polymorph themselves into any other race. And through this, breed
It'd be so cool to see Sebas turn into a dragon.
Leaving behind whatever elf, dwarf, or any race babies with dragon blood in their veins. So, what does all this have to do with Sebas? Well, either a lot or very little.
Right.
Sebas is definitely a dragonoid of some variety.
It's either got a lot to do with it or just like copy anything.
Ryujin, roughly translating to dragon man or dragon person.
Dragon man.
So he's either a true dragon, a lesser subspecies of dragon, or a humanoid creature with dragon blood within him. And dragons did exist in Yggdrasil, so this isn't just some wild speculation. Dragons were actually some of the strongest enemies that one could encounter,
cool.
And they were routinely used as world-class entities. Basically, end-game raid bosses, so powerful that they would require entire armies of max-level players and NPCs just to take them down. The big question now, then, is how much dragon blood does Sebas have within him?
Yeah, how much does he have?
Keep in mind, that's Yggdrasil dragon blood, not New World dragon blood. Remember, they could very well not be the same thing. We know they have lots of similarities, but what we don't know definitely overshadows what we do know. So let's just encompass all of our potential possibilities regarding Sebas's relation to dragons. As we just mentioned, he could be a full-blown dragon just polymorphing into a humanoid creature with dragon blood in his lineage, thus granting him dragon-like powers, or even some kind of lesser dragon species. Hell, he could even be a Dungeons & Dragons Dragonborn for all we know. But, as usual, we'll use a combination of logic and speculation in an attempt to figure out the truth.
Okay.
The name dragonoid carries the oid suffix, to mean like or resembling, which typically implies an incomplete or imperfect resemblance.
Not quite a full...
Using this as our basis, the suffix therefore implies that Sebas is a lesser dragon, or dragon-like creature. And while that strongly implies a dragon subspecies, it could also mean a fairly young, true dragon as well. Still, I think it's safer to assume that he's a lesser species of dragon, and not just a true dragon polymorphed into
I summoned the lesser
dragon. So let's proceed with that. As for being a mixed race with dragon blood flowing through them, well, that's certainly a possibility, considering that all Nazarick denizens were heteromorphic creatures, monsters with a vaguely humanoid feature set, if at all. A strong indication of what kind of race you are is usually how many levels that you put into it. As you may recall, heteromorphs have full access to a racial class tree that normal human and demi-human characters do not. If we look at Sebas's character sheet, we see his entire racial build is unknown, leaving 25 levels up for speculation. But trust me when I say it's dragonoid. 25 levels smells suspiciously like either a heavy investment in a demi-human dragon blood racial class, or a moderate investment into some kind of heteromorphic dragon subspecies. But what kind of abilities does this dragonoid race have? Well, we know of exactly one for sure. Sebas is one of a select few Nazarick NPCs who have the ability to transform into a final form. We have absolutely no idea what this form looks like or what powers it gives him, though it's presumed to be dragon-related. It could be a full-on Skyrim dragon, or just one of the aborted dragon fetuses from Dark Souls. But that's pretty much the only racial ability that we
just
can
go full dragon, be amazing.
I'm sure he has others, like some special attacks when in his final form, or even the stuff I discussed earlier could bear some relevance, as in access to wild magic or some innate spellcasting and polymorphic abilities. A breath attack and inability to die from old age could very well be plausible too. Who knows?
Who knows?
But I'm sure you have a few ideas of your own too, so feel free to let me know. Anyway, what we do know more of is his classes and class-based abilities.
God, look at those stats.
Looking back on his character sheet, Sebas's character archetype is that of a monk, historically known as someone that practices monastic living at a monastery. Specifically, someone who structures their entire life around rejecting material pleasure in favor of abstinence and minimalism, in order to pursue religious obligations and seek enlightenment. Monks exist within the faith traditions of various cultures: Buddhism, Jainism, even sects of Christianity. Chinese Buddhist monks have been stereotypically linked to the practice of Chinese martial arts, like Kung Fu, as some groups saw martial arts and self-mastery as a potential method of achieving enlightenment. It wasn't something that was particularly prevalent throughout history or the entire world, but the idea of a bunch of priests who sat around praying all day but could also punch your lights out was apparently such a cool concept that it became a popular trope in fiction. Video games ran with the idea, and now the term monk is popular shorthand for a martial artist that incorporates Eastern spiritualism concepts into their martial arts. As a martial artist, Sebas is adept at fighting with his fist.
Yes, he is.
Or really any other limb for that matter. He doesn't need a blade to put a hole through your stomach. No, he can do that with the power of his fists alone. Now, aside from the 10 levels explicitly in Monk, He also has 10 levels in Martial Lord and a further 5 levels in Striker, a build that very clearly has a high focus in hand-to-hand combat. While a strike can technically be done with any object, like a sword strike for instance, in the context of martial arts, certain attacks like punches and kicks are typically called strikes, in contrast to other moves like grabs, flips, or grapplings. The Striker class thus may give Sebas access to different kinds of powerful strike moves, or just improve the damage of his strikes. Martial Lord, on the other hand, is a bit trickier. But in JRPGs, the word Lord is often used to signify an improved version of an existing thing.
A really good.
So perhaps it's a higher tier version of the monk or martial
really
artist
high level
classes.
use of it.
Aside from regular old punches and kicks, monks themselves most likely have access to a selection of decidedly more supernatural abilities that are powered by the manipulation of ki energy, a concept from Eastern spiritualism. Perhaps you're familiar with the terms life force, chakra, spirit energy, or nen. It's related to that sort of thing. It's the life force that exists both in oneself as well as the surrounding environment. So good. Different from mana, and the way that mana is associated with the manipulation of physics and reality to create supernatural events. Ki is associated with vitality, health, and spirituality.
Right.
Its manipulation grants control and mastery over one's soul, and by extension, their body. Basically, if mana is mind over matter, then ki is spirit over body. This leads to a selection of spells or abilities that are radically different from a typical spellcaster. Ones that emphasize buffs and power-ups rather than overt flashiness and firepower. With that said, he actually has 2 classes related to ki manipulation. One that's translated as either spiritual or inner ki master.
Right.
And one translated as either physical or outer ki master. A common trope in Eastern spiritualism is that mastery over one's inner self, one's inner ki or chakra, allows one to seemingly defy the laws of the physical world in many of the ways that a wizard can.
You may
see real-life ki masters walking on a bed of hot coal or surviving without food for months. But the term ki and its themes of self-mastery and discipline also make frequent appearances in martial arts philosophy, allowing users to smash through bricks and the like. Fiction tends to take this one step further, where a master of ki might
through the
be able
roof
to explode someone's face by striking their pressure points at specific angles with specific force, or shoot an energy blast from their hands, or even fly through the air.
Crash attack a dragon.
As an outer ki master of 5 levels and an inner ki master of 15, Sebas is adept at both manipulating his own ki as well as affecting others and in the natural environment.
He's so cool.
This could mean that his abilities are focused on self-buffs, while also having a specialized few that allow him to influence and control others and the environment. If I had to make an educated guess, I'd say inner ki was useful in direct combat, while outer ki was used more for utility. As for his actual known abilities, he can harden his skin to make himself more durable using iron skin.
Cool.
He can channel his ki into allies, allowing for the healing of basic wounds. Healing of more complex ailments like poisons or curses require a specific type of divine magic that Sebas doesn't have access to. He also bears a technique called Palm of the Puppeteer. It lets him control someone's mind by channeling his ki into their head.
That's awesome.
Though this can be negated with a sufficiently high resistance. Another ability is the one that he used on Climb to grant him the strength to overcome his body's normal limits while staring him down with lethal intent.
Limit break.
Lethal intent being a gaze so murderous and intimidating that it sends shivers down your spine even if you can't actually see them. Sebas has so much control over his own body that he has precise command over his own lethal intent, resulting in an attack called Intimidation. As we saw in Season 2, he basically showers Climb in a lethal intent so strong that it gives Climb conscious control over his own reactions, teaching him in the process how to overcome another person's powerful killing intent through self-activation of his own adrenaline response in the form of a martial art. What happened here was essentially Sebas used an ability designed to debuff an enemy with fear and repurposed it to grant him another effect, which is actually quite interesting, considering how much of the mechanics of Yggdrasil changed in the New World. From this, we can speculate that while Sebas may have only had access to whatever abilities that were part of his classes back in Yggdrasil, as a master of martial arts and manipulator of ki energy in the New World, he may be able to accomplish things that he could not necessarily do in Yggdrasil, which makes you wonder what else is possible in the New World. But back to ki. Mechanically, it's not spelled out exactly how the manipulation of ki is different from the expenditure of
just kills all them.
Sebas's MP and magic attack stats are extremely low,
Wow, they are really low,
suggesting that he has basically no spellcasting ability. But does ki just function as a similar resource, going down whenever he casts monk spells and regenerating slowly over time as one rests? Or is it a fixed value, like attack power, that determines the strength of his monk attacks? If I had to guess, it's a resource like mana, but one that can be regained much more quickly. Like in League of Legends, how Lee Sin has an energy bar instead of a mana bar. High-level monk abilities don't appear to be particularly powerful in the grand scheme of things, even in comparison to abilities from other warrior classes, let alone arcane spellcasters that stack all their stats into instant death. A good example would be Palm of the Puppeteer. It's a single-target mind control ability that requires the user to physically touch the target.
Them, yeah, you can't just do it from a distance.
But a spellcaster can mind control entire groups of people from a distance
right,
with just the wave of their hand, just much less frequently. So it's most likely that ki can be recovered quickly by stopping and charging up, allowing for more frequent use of lesser powerful abilities, in contrast to MP, which regenerates extremely slowly, but can be used for extremely powerful and impactful abilities. Under this model, a ki user has no limit on how often that they can use their abilities, outside of drawing on their pool of ki, only limited by how much ki they have and how fast it can recharge. On a side note, there is a variation on the base monk class called Shaman, which we saw in the 6 Arms Leader 0. Just like Sebas, he had levels in monk, but rather than being focused on the sub-variants of ki mastery, he chose to specialize in shamanism. A practitioner of such has a body covered in the tattoos of animals, which can then be used to channel power from and imbue himself with features of the associated animal for a limited period of time.
Which is cool.
Knowing this, though I kind of implied that ki energy is a feature shared by all monks, that isn't entirely true, as we've just seen with the case of monks channeling animal spirits instead of a ki pool. Sure, they could be related, but it's hard to know for sure. Yggdrasil had hundreds of different classes, and they integrated all kinds of different video game archetypal classes and races under one big unified class system, much like how Dungeons & Dragons does. What I'm trying to say is that there could be different types of monks that don't necessarily draw from ki or animal spirits, like Sebas and Zero do. There are many paths for a player to choose from and specialize into, all of which embody a specific type of monk. What probably unifies all monks together as a singular monk class is an emphasis of martial arts mixed with some brand of spiritualism. Now, after monk, Sebas has 30 more unknown class levels, most likely associated with monk or monk-like classes, which we won't try to speculate this time around. So now that we've covered his build, well, how strong is he?
Yeah.
For starters, Sebas is one of Nazarek's 4 best close combat specialists, alongside Rubedo, Albedo, and Cocytus. This means he specializes in attacks delivered from extremely close range against opponents who are actively in combat with him. Unlike assassins who have to ambush opponents in order to maximize damage, as a CQC specialist, he is virtually guaranteed victory against anything other than a fellow CQC expert, given that he can close the distance and engage the foe at close range. When against a foe engaging him from outside of his effective range, he can try and weather the attacks with his respectable defense and high health pool, all while attempting to get closer. Sebas, I imagine, is much better at this than Albedo or Cocytus, as he is no less of a warrior, but has plenty of self-healing to keep his health up as he chases down a kiting enemy. As I've mentioned before, there's a rock-paper-scissors relationship to be observed with the other close combat specialists of Nazarek. Albedo beats Sebas, Sebas beats Cocytus, and Cocytus beats Albedo. So Sebas beats Cocytus, but loses to Albedo. Why? Well, Cocytus is highly focused on DPS with a glass cannon-like build, and Albedo is full tank. I suspect that Sebas as a monk has fairly well-balanced defense and offense. We know his punches are quite powerful, at least powerful enough to put him among the top 3 warrior classes in Nazarek. We also know that his defense is pretty good, but not quite as high as Albedo. He can also probably boost both offensive and defensive stats temporarily with his ki. Combine all this with his mix of abilities to self-heal, debuff enemies, mind control low-level minions and whatnot, and you'll see he's got a very versatile kit that keeps him well-rounded, flexible, and balanced. unlike the other two that are heavily specialized in either damage or defense. It's from this that you can piece together the dynamic. Cocytus has so much power he can overcome Albedo's defenses, dealing damage at a quick enough pace to down her before she can down him. Albedo is so tanky that Sebas can't really damage her enough before he runs out of ki and has to recharge, whereas she can just slowly whittle him down with a flurry of constant attacks.
Just keeps attacking.
And finally, Sebas has a good enough mix of offense, defense, self-healing, and special abilities to endure Cocytus's high damage output long enough to exploit his low defense. But there's still one really important thing that's not being taken into consideration here.
And what's that?
And this completely changes the entire dynamic. Sebas's transformation ability. Like I said before, very little is known about its specific function. Except for one thing. It's apparently enough of a trump card that it grants him enough power to defeat both Cocytus and Albedo. So yeah, this has got to be some crazy dragon-type transformation.
Whoa.
That being said, it's likely limited in overall usability, such that he can only use it a limited number of times per day, possibly even just once. If so, an opponent
when he
who is
transforms
aware of it
into whatever it
to
is,
bait it out
he's
by
stronger than
retreating,
Albedo and
then
Cocytus.
re-engaging Sebas when he no longer has access to his trump card. Or maybe it only activates when he's on low health. The activation requirements could really be anything, though Yggdrasil typically used the X uses per day model for anything that wasn't a spell, and in turn didn't require the expenditure of mana.
Right.
Incidentally, Sebas still doesn't become the strongest being in Nazarick when he's transformed. That spot is still held by Rubedo, being very capable of defeating Sebas even in his final form.
Damn.
I mean,
She's
Rubedo
strong.
can likely beat Touch Me, the indisputably strongest member of Ainz Ur-Gon, who routinely beat Momonga, who had the skills and tactics to eke out a win on Shaltir, who is the most powerful floor guardian thanks to her min-maxed build and also capable of beating Cocytus, Albedo, and Sebas.
Wow.
Looking at it this way, then yeah, Sebas is unfortunately pretty far down on that power scale list. Still, he's a level 100 character like everyone else, and thus can probably face roll pretty much everything in the New World. I doubt that even a Dragon Lord can hold a candle to him. But yeah, that's Sebas, the Dragonoid butler that excels in close quarters combat. I'm sure there's still plenty more things to learn about him, and I'm sure you all have some opinions of your own. So go ahead and let us know what you think about Sebas in the comments. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this type of anime content, then you already know what to do. So, until next time, ciao.
Cool. Man, Sebas is a dragon. He's a dragon butler. I instantly just imagined like a dragon with like a butler suit, like with like a vest and a tie. Just me, okay. A dragon butler would be cool, man. There's some huge dragons bringing like drinks. My mind goes into weird places. But that was cool. Like, I like the fact that, yeah, he's not at the top, but if he was to transform, he is pretty damn powerful. So yeah, that was cool. I like these anime news videos. I love how informative they are, and it's not boring information. I like how he presents the information, how he talks, and he's got a personality as well. So yeah, I think we're going to do the Albedo conspiracy theory next one. Yeah, why not? We'll do that because that seems interesting. So yeah, thank you guys very much. Thank you guys very much for watching. What did you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. I'll see you guys. It's all of you guys next time. Bye. I really want a dragon butler. It's so cool.